Hello and welcome to the Quiver channel. I am Jason, your host. I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday morning. If it's Sunday for you, I don't know. I am just in the kitchen doing a bit of tweaking because I'm taking apart my main PC upstairs. In fact, it's completely taken apart now. It is non-functional. I've removed some items because I sold one of my Pimax because the Pimax is so reliable, and I'm going to use the Quest 3 more as well. I don't need to have two Pimax crystals. The other one wasn't getting used, and I've got a friend who wanted it, so I gave them a very good deal on it. So I am slowly, I've removed everything from it. I'm getting part of the money that he gave me. I've ordered, and it should arrive today, a new motherboard for the main PC. This was a pain in the ass to do because I had to basically uninstall a lot of bits and pieces. But one of the problems that you've got with motherboards these days is, yes, there's lots of nice budget motherboards, but they really do cut down on what you've got. Like, you might have the cheapest Chinesium chip controlling all your USB bandwidth. You might have 5 or 10 megabyte bandwidth spread over all of your USB ports on the back of your system. Now, for a normal user, that might be fine. But for someone who's classed as a power user, someone who's using it for VR, for AI, who's pushing the limits all the time and having stuff like the Pimax crystal going through the USB stuff and all that kind of thing, you can really notice it. So I looked at all the available motherboards and I looked at the more expensive ones. Now, I wasn't going on cost. I was going on quality of components. That's a very different. Like, there's some of the really high cost ones that are just game of fluff. You know, game of fluff, lots of RGB. They look really nice. They've got shiny bits on them, but they don't actually give you any more bang for the buck. But there is some out there. I think it's the ASRock Tai Chi. It's a very good motherboard for high end. We're talking £400-500 for a motherboard. We're talking a lot. So you've got to remember, I max out the SATA ports. I max out the PCI Express lanes on a motherboard. And while you can't, it's the CPU that designates how many PCI lanes you've got, really. The way that they're implemented on a really expensive motherboard and a good quality motherboard is different. So the motherboard that I've gone for is the ProArt 6670E wireless Creator. It's beautiful. It is a work of art. It's a ProArt motherboard. But the nice thing about it is it's got dual USB 4 ports on the back with their own controller. That's the good part. They have their own controller chip, which is basically exactly the same chip that's used for Thunderbolt 4. From what I understand, USB 4 is basically Thunderbolt 4. I said Thunderbird, didn't I? Thunderbolt 4, but without the licensing agreement. So USB 4 has all the same qualities. I can plug my eGPU into a USB 4 port, no problem, and it'll function fine. And then they don't take up bandwidth of all your other USB ports because it's got its own little chipset. The second bonus for it is it's got a 10 gigabyte Ethernet port. Why is that important? Because I was taking up one of my PCIe slots on my old motherboard for 10 gigabyte expansion. Why 10 gig? Well, I've got 10 gigabyte network in my house now. And so transferring stuff over, and that is a dream at that speed. So yes, it was going to happen. I was going to have that, no problem. So this has meant that I won't be using that, which is a good thing because it's got 4 M2 slots, but the final M2 slot shares its bandwidth with the PCIe slot. So if you have something in both, they both go down to X2, which isn't bad. But if you were trying to have a second, for example, graphics card in there in the future to soup things up, you would be limited. Without that final slot being used, you can get it up to X4 or X8 with, I think it's called bifurcation or something. It's something to do with being able to split the stuff. Anyway, the Pro Art has all these features and more. So what am I doing at the moment? At the moment, I'm going into my Minis form and grabbing the, I need a smaller one. I'm grabbing the smaller M2 out of it. It's got 4 terabyte M2. You see, when I bought the other motherboard, it was one of the, I had a constraint, budgetary constraint when I built that computer upstairs. So I was able to get like a £250 motherboard, which was good, but didn't have some of these abilities. And I have missed them, and I have actually found situations where the USB ports on the back of the motherboard I'm using get overloaded. So, what is this? This is a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black SN770. Good little one. And I populated my motherboard with 3 of these and 1 4 terabyte one that I already had for the OS. 4 terabyte for the OS, which was faster, and these 2 terabyte ones in the other 3 slots. But now I managed to collect over the past few months 3 4 terabyte ones. So I'm going to increase the storage on it without taking as much space, without taking that last slot. Because at the moment, my computer that I just take apart had 4 terabytes in the main M2, and then 3 2 terabyte ones. Now what that did was meant I had 10 terabytes worth of M2, which is a lot, but I managed to fill it up actually really quickly. I am a storage hog. I could have so much storage and I'd still have problems. And so what I'm doing this time is the 3 slots. The first slot's going to have the 4 terabytes in. The next 2 slots are going to have 4 terabytes in. That's 12 terabyte of space in the system. And then I'm going to decide whether or not to put one in the last one or not. The last one is going to be optional because if I ever want to use that PCI Express slot for something else, I've got a good idea for it as well. So what we're going to do is this, and this is going to be quite a silly little plan. The three of these, because I've got 3 of these, I've got 3 2 terabyte ones. I'm going to stick them in a RAID card. Well, not a RAID card, a PCI Express RAID card. And you can put 3 of these, 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them together, and that would be another 8 terabyte. Of course, I don't have to do that. That's a future thing. I'm not going to put them in straight. I'm going to leave that one M2 on the board, the shared M2, the M2 that is shared with all of the PCI Express lanes. Leave that free, and at a later point I can just utilize it because it doesn't have to be used for a Intel 10 gigabit NIC. So yes, we just open this up and we're going to take out the 4 terabyte out of here because it doesn't need 4 terabytes. And for now, I'm going to put this 2 terabytes in here. So this little mini PC does not need an 8 terabyte drive, and it really doesn't. I mean, it doesn't need a 4 terabyte. So you're just getting into my minutes form little PC and doing the happy things. There we go. Let's take that off. Where are you? I need a flathead. Yes, I've got 2 LTT screwdrivers now. I've got one for downstairs and one for upstairs. Why? Because I love them and because I am doing projects all over the house. I do projects upstairs and projects downstairs, and I'll be halfway through a project upstairs and then I'll move downstairs and I'll go, oh God, I forgot my screwdriver, and I'll have to go back upstairs and fetch him. By the time I go back to no. Let's talk about this later. Let's do it in a separate video because we just want to finish off getting this out. Because you know how random I am. Come on, you can do this. There we are. Right, so we are just put this back in. I love the Manifesto. It's very tiny. It's small. It's not that stable, but I've made it more stable by better memory. And I've moved the wireless outside of the case, which looks a bit janky, but it works far better. My God, it's improved it by almost 10 times. Its ability to... Come on. Grab that screw. Come here. Come here, God damn it. It's decided to hang on for... Let's put it there. We're doing this with overview, so I'll talk about my LTT and why I've done it. And how random it is. So that's a Lexar 790. So that's a 4 terabyte. I think it's 4 terabyte. Yes, it is. So that's going to go upstairs, and this little Western Digital Black can go in here, and like a good little thingy. It can just do. So let's take the screws and put it back together. So I hope everybody's having a good day. I'll be at Munchies later. I don't know how frazzled I'll be because I don't know whether I'll have time to sleep because I've got to wait for... I can't go to bed because I'm waiting for the delivery. I know that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing. By the time Munchies comes around tonight, I'm going to be absolutely freaking frazzled. Oh, yeah. There, you plug in that way, don't you? Yep. Let's just put this back together. I love. See, we're talking about it afterwards. We're going to talk about it. We're going to do 2 videos. This one's going to go up first. We're almost done. I'm keeping you on here until I can put this back together because I'm focused. I'm planned. I know what I need to check. I wonder how loud that is on this mic. Oh my God, they'll probably kill people's hearing with that. It's such a nice sound. But I have just been ratcheting right close to the mic. My apologies for that. My apologies. That's a bad thing. So there we are. This is all in place. The Manifesto is back together with 3 terabytes in total. I just want to check something. Okay. So one over here. Is there something missing? I'm missing something. Where is it? I don't think it's down here. I don't think it's down here. I was looking for my crayon. I'm going to have to reapply thermal paste, but I think it's upstairs. I'll see you in a bit. Anyway, bye bye for now.